Now first, we will begin with the definition of the word chunk. What is a chunk? Then we will also define chunking. What is chunking? A chunk is a package of information that has meaning. Therefore, a piece of information, a unit of information, or a packet of information that has meaning we refer to it as a chunk. And what is chunking? Now, chunking is the process of forming a chunk. That mental process of forming a chunk, which is a logical piece of information which is understandable and has meaning, is what we refer to as chunking. Now, in this lesson, we are going to see how a chunk is important and how the process of chunking helps us in learning. Now, to understand chunking, let us look at an analogy of a jigsaw puzzle. Most of us are familiar with the jigsaw puzzle, where we have so many small pieces which you can put together to bring out an image. It can be a picture of an animal, a picture of a house, or a picture of a person, or a picture of any object. Now, when this jigsaw puzzle is not yet assembled together, it does not have any meaning, or it does not make any meaning. They are just pieces of puzzle. But when you take these pieces and put them together in a logical way, you are going to make one piece which will have meaning. Because after you have assembled those pieces, you are going to get a picture which has meaning. You can say now this is a picture of a tree, this is a picture of a house, this is a picture of a person. Now, in the same way, we do chunking. Each piece of a puzzle is a chunk of information. Now, when you take all these pieces of information and put them together, you are going to have information which is logical and which has meaning. And that is what chunking means. Now, the next thing, we need to look at examples of chunking. Now, to understand the concept of chunking better, we need to look at some examples. Now, you can chunk information in two ways. You can either create patterns, or you can chunk information by categorizing the information or putting the information in a certain hierarchy. Now, let us look at patterns, and in this example we are going to look at a mobile phone number. If you want to memorize your mobile phone number and remember it for a long period of time, is it easy to memorize the number as a whole continuously, or is it easy to memorize the number when you break it into digits? You can either break it into 2 digits, or 3 digits, or 4 digits, depending on how long your mobile phone number is. Let me give an example of my mobile phone number. My mobile phone number is plus 2541115024443. Now, if I want to memorize this mobile phone number in this way continuously, it is very difficult for me to memorize it. But I can easily memorize this mobile phone number if I break it into 3 digits number. I can say plus 254, that is one group, then 111 is another group, then 502, another group of digits, and 443 is the last group of digits. Now in this way, when I break it into chunks, it will be very easy for me to memorize and remember my number. That is one way of doing chunking. Another way of doing chunking is in languages. When you want to learn a language, how do you learn a language? You cannot learn the whole language in one day, even 1 week. It may take years, maybe, or month at minimum. And a language is made up of parts of speech. A language has nouns, it has verbs, adverbs, adjectives, conjunctions, articles, plus other parts of speech which make up that language. Now, for you to learn the language, you must learn each of these chunks first, then you put the chunks together to make the language. You can start with the nouns, then after nouns you can learn the verbs, then you can go to conjunctions, then you can go to adjectives, adverbs, etc. until you finish all the parts of speech. And as you are learning, you will start with the simple sentences, then you grow up to complex sentences. Then you can start simple conversation, then you go to advanced conversations. And when you want to write, you can start with writing sentences first, then you go to writing simple paragraphs, then you go now to writing complex and long paragraphs. Now that is another example of chunking. You learn the information bit by bit. Then you bring the bits together, and in that way now you create a bigger chunk or a larger chunk which makes meaning and which is logical. Another example, we can look at an example in science. Let's say biology. The first topic in biology is usually about the cell, the basic unit of life. Now, the cell as a topic, you want to learn it. You want to get that concept of the cell. You cannot learn this topic in a single day as a learner. Even as a teacher, you cannot teach it in a single day. Therefore, you need to break it down. You need to chunk the topic. You will break it down first. You will start maybe with the definition of the cell. What is a cell? Once the learners have understood the meaning of the word cell, then you go to look at the structure of the cell, where you look at the components which make up the cell. Then after the structure of the cell, you can go now to the function of the components. What is the function of the cell membrane, the function of the cytoplasm, the function of the nucleus, the function of the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, and all other components which make up the cell. Once you have understood the components and their function, then you can go further now and see how these components function. How do they interact with each other? Maybe you look at the movement in and out of the cell. Now in that way, you will be able, after a period of time, to get the concept of the entire topic of the cell. That is another example of chunking. Next, let us look at the importance of chunking. How is chunking important in learning? I think from what I have explained to you, you have already gotten some of the importance of chunking. One of it is it makes learning easier because you break the information which you want to learn into small bits or small units which are manageable and easier to learn. You start with the easy content first, the basic, then you keep on building to the complex. And in that way, you will learn in a very good way and an easy way, and it will also be easier for you to understand whatever you are learning. The second importance of chunking is it makes it easier to commit information to memory. Through chunking, it will be easy for you to commit whatever material you are learning into your long-term memory. When you start the chunking process, the information is stored in your working memory or the short-term memory. Then, through repetition and practice, the information is moved from the working memory to your long-term memory. And it is only easy and effective to do this if you do it in bits or in chunks. You study a small chunk of information in a study session, then you repeat it maybe in another session and you keep it in your long-term memory. Then you keep on studying and building your chunks until you complete all the material which you want to learn. Another importance of chunking is it reduces cognitive load as the learner processes information. Now, reducing cognitive load means at any one moment, your working memory cannot carry a lot of information. Our working memory has a very small storage capacity, and research shows that it can store an average of 7 items with the margin of error of plus or minus 2. This means that it can store from 5 to 9 items at a time. Now, if you have a lot of information and you want to study it in one session, this will be very difficult and it will not be possible because the cognitive load, whatever you want to master or to learn, is a lot. Therefore, your working memory cannot accommodate that. Now, the only way your working memory will be able to accommodate this information is by chunking the information. Through chunking is like you are decompressing the information into pieces of information which your working memory can accommodate. Then another importance of chunking is it provides meaning and context to the information, making it easier to remember. By chunking, you will be able to create meaning and context to the information which you are learning, and it will make it easier for you to remember. How? Because with chunking, it means you are learning the information bit by bit. Therefore, each bit of information or each piece of information you are learning, you will be able to understand it and to create the context, the broader context of the information. And when you build another chunk regarding information related to the information which you have already learned, you will be building the meaning now. You'll be creating the meaning, and it will be easier for you to make the connection between the chunks which you are learning. And in this way, you will understand the information or the material you are learning, and the material will be committed to your long-term memory, and you will be able to remember for a long period of time. Therefore, those are the importance of chunking in learning. Now, to conclude, we have seen that chunking is a very vital strategy in learning, is a very important learning strategy. And as I have said previously, learning is a process. It is not an event. We have to learn bit by bit every day. And chunking is the way now of breaking that long string of information into small pieces which we can learn bit by bit every day until we become experts or masters in the subject which we are learning or in our field of study. For these few or many remarks, thank you very much for listening, and if you find the lesson to be important and useful, kindly share it with others.